Hi, Jeff Spira here again, and today I want to talk to you about V-Bottom Dories. Now, a lot of people will say that there's no such thing as a V-Bottom Dory. I get a lot of posts and comments that way on social media and on these videos. Well, yes, there are. Here's a couple pictures of some from Newport Dory fleet back in the 1980s. They weren't my design. These were around, and they were pretty common when I set out to design my V-Bottom Dory. So you might wonder, why a V-Bottom Dory? Well, what I said was the Carolina Dories were very planeable, and they had lots of static stability. So that means it doesn't rock back and forth much when you're moving slowly or you stop, like when you're fishing or something like that. But it has issues when moving fast in choppy water, like the Great Lakes or some of these shallow bays you run across a lot, or, near shore water in the East Coast or the Gulf Coast, or even in the West Coast when we have localized windy conditions and you get a 3 and 4 foot chop on top of the swell. So based on examining some of these V-Bottom Dories that are not unusual around here where I live, and chatting with their owners, I redesigned the basic Carolina Dory style boat with a variable V-bottom. It's a sharper V at the bow and then flattens out at the transom. And that improves the high-speed ride while not taking much away from too much from the static stability. All these things are, they're a compromise. So you do what you can to try and hit the medium that you hope to achieve. So it's really neither a deep V nor a shallow V. Like all things in boats, it's a compromise. And they generally call it a variable V. In Chesapeake Bay, they call them, the word will come to me. But anyway, they're not unusual styles of boats, and a lot of mine are designed along those lines. So, most of my fishing is trolling, where you run 7 or 8 knots and you pull jigs. I commercial fished back in my college days for albacore, which are, they occur offshore, from maybe 60 miles to, on out, 100 miles, 120 miles or so off the Central Coast. And we would go out for, a week at a time or so and drag 14 hex head jigs to catch them. And, they'd hit on the jigs and we'd just stand back and haul them in. The trick to doing most of that was finding the right water temperature. But wherever you go out there in certain times of the year, if you hit the right water temperature, you find albacore out cruising. So, these days I still troll a lot. I fish for tuna, by trolling jigs, and I catch dorado. You might call them mahi-mahi or dolphin fish. And local yellowtail are pretty common out in the kelp patches that are floating out, off in the offshore banks and things like that. So trolling is a better way to catch these fish than just stopping and casting jigs. And I even catch them, local trolling, around the kelp beds, the local kelp beds. Yeah, that's me back in the the summer of 1969 or so with that yellowtail, and that's my father with a barracuda, which is another very good eating local fish, and they're really good smoked and such. So anyway, so one of the main things about using something like a V-Bottom Dory is how well it displaces. So when you're going slow or trolling, it tracks straight and it rides nicely, and they're more comfortable when you're stopped or going slow because of all the static stability. But yet it can plane over choppy water to get you home, when you got to run home. So the story behind the V-Bottom Dories that I design, since they've come out, they've been built all over the world. In fact, the boat you saw on the cover of this video, it was a thumbnail from the one of the first ever built, and that was built in New Zealand. You know, they needed a nice, reliable boat for shallow or deep water, whether it was still or whether it was choppy, and it could handle rough sea conditions or shallow bays comfortably. So that's the boat. The first one that came up with was the 19-footer, and it's called the Hatteras. But I generally start these at a 15-footer. This one is called the Alamitos, and it's named after a bay here in Long Beach where, you know, I usually keep my boats. And it's easy access to the local, you know, offshore rock piles where they get kelp beds and such like that. So they're used. This Alamitos boat though is pretty beamy, and it's beamier than some of the longer designs. Not, I mean, in a ratio of length to beam. Let's put it that way. So it's good in, you know, coastal bays and near shore areas as well as, you know, and so they use it all over. They use it in lakes and rivers and, you know, all over the U.S. and Canada. It's popular in the Mediterranean, Australia, and New Zealand. You know, this is one fishermen tend to like, this 15-footer. So here's an Alamitos builder on a river in Michigan that leads to Lake Huron, and let's take a look at how it rides. A step up from this 15-footer is the 17-foot Chesapeake. And this is a bit longer design, and it would troll better than the Alamitos because of its longer waterline. Many of these have been built, and it's big open bays is a common place for it. Near shore ocean areas are also, you know, a possibility, and larger lakes that get by with, you know, that can get blowy or choppy, you know. So it's a good choice for small family. Runs with a 25 to 50 horse motor. Here's a Chesapeake in New Jersey's Barnegat Bay, and I think it's running with a 30 horse motor. So take a look at how it performs. Now the 19-foot version of this is called the Hatteras. This was the first design I came up with, and it's been a great choice and for most builders. It's a good size. It's trailerable and easily stored in the garage and that sort of thing, but it can handle a good sized crew and family. They're popular in Hawaii is because they have to troll out into deep tuna water. The South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, a lot of the U.S. and the Canadian Maritimes, they use a lot of these boats. Southeast U.S. is popular. So they're also workable as ski and fun boats for, larger groups and lakes and that sort of thing. They really perform well for all that. The Hatteras runs with as little as 40 horses and can go up in the 90 horse range, but typically 50 to 75 is what most people run on them. Anyway, and I also make a larger one, or I designed a larger one that's been built too. It's called the Chesapeake. Yeah, I know I misspelled it when I did it, but it was done intentionally. I used to think people would get the jokes, like my Gloucesterman rowing dory is misspelled as well, but no one really got it, and a lot of people commented on it and said, "Hey, you misspelled it." So, so I don't really do that anymore. That was a years ago kind of thing. I gave it a try. So I just get too many comments about it, so I just don't do that anymore. So, but I haven't changed the names of the originals. So, but the Chesapeake is a great fishing boat and a diving boat. They use a couple of people use them in the Mediterranean as dive boats. So. They work out great on the coastal and Great Lakes, and they take 75 to 125 horsepower or so for optimal performance. They're good, sturdy, fun, easy to use sort of style. So I also had a request to do one that is wider and is able to carry a cabin well. So I designed it, and it's called the Clemente, and that kind of stands for this San Clemente Island, which is off the shore of Southern California, and that's, you may have heard about it. It's where the SEALs train, but it's the SEAL teams. But it's owned by the Navy, and it's a place they bomb and shell. It's an interesting place to go visit on a boat. They're not allowed to go in there when they're doing any of their main operations, but it's a great place to fish and dive, and there's a lot of sunken ships and stuff that are interesting to go look at, and it's a good fishing hole too. So anyway, this Clemente boat would be suitable for all kinds of cruising. The builder in Sweden built this one, and it runs on a 20-horse motor. And it cruises all day at 8 knots, burning almost no fuel. It'll get up to 12 knots too, if you push it. I think this would make a great little solo camping boat to do something like the Great Loop, because it's economical, and it's got some room in it, there's some space, and it'd be a fun boat for that. I don't know if you know what the Loop is, but it's a big, long, circular route that goes around the eastern United States. It includes rivers and bays and some ocean travel, and canals up in Canada if you'd like to go that way. And it's a great fun thing that a lot of people like to do. Is it typically takes a year to do it, so you can go in the south in the winter, and in the north in the summer, and it makes a fun trip. People sail it. People also use trawler type boats for it. But a little boat like this would make a great looper, I think, anyway. Now, building a V-bottom boat's a lot more work than a flat-bottom dory, so it takes more time. And I'd say it's roughly double of what a Carolina dory might be, the amount of hours. But most builders, have fun with the building process, as well as the the using process. So for some people, the extra work is welcomed because they enjoy working on the boat as much as they enjoy, hurry up and get it done. Let's get it out on the water kind of attitude about it. But it's still a very easy to build boat. I'm sure you can do it. So if the conditions I've been talking about here appeal to you, then just have a look at these V-Bottom Dories, and it might be one of the better boats for you. Also, please do subscribe to this YouTube channel and hit the bell so that you get notified of new videos that are posted. If you're interested in any of my boats, please go by my website, and it's got lots of great stuff on there. It also has an insider section where I've got additional information, and you can freely download the manuals that I talk about and such. All it takes is you joining and putting in your email address, so I have a way to get a hold of you. But please do that. And again, thank you very much for watching.